Let me ask you something. What if the person shaking your hand is the same one digging your grave? See, the most dangerous enemy isn't the one who curses your name. It's the one who smiles at you, the one who calls you friend, brother, teammate, while quietly planting the seeds of your downfall. They don't throw punches. They don't scream. They don't need to, because they've already positioned themselves close enough to destroy you from within. This kind of enemy doesn't act out of rage. They act with patience. They wait. They study. And when the timing is just right, they strike in a way you never saw coming. It could be your coworker, your so-called best friend, even someone in your own family. And that's what makes it so terrifying. Because while we're trained to guard against open conflict, what do we do when the threat comes with a hug? Most people never see it. They dismiss the gut feeling. They explain away the red flags. They say, maybe I'm just overthinking, or I don't want to be paranoid. But this isn't about paranoia. This is about survival. Stoic philosophy teaches us that danger often hides in comfort, that appearances are unreliable, that the closer someone gets to your heart, your mind, your routines, the easier it is for them to manipulate your reality. Marcus Aurelius, the Roman emperor who ruled through betrayal and war, once said, "Your mind will take the shape of what you frequently hold in thought. If you constantly assume others have good intentions, you may never notice the one who doesn't, until it's far too late." That's why today's video is more than just a warning. It's a roadmap. Because there are 5 subtle but dangerous signs that can help you spot the difference between simple dislike and a deeply buried threat. The kind of threat that doesn't just want you to fail, it wants to be there when you do. Watching. So before we dive in, I want you to think about this. Who in your life has access to your routines? Who always seems a little too curious about your plans? Who gives you a strange feeling in your gut, but you've ignored it because they seem so nice? Now ask yourself one more question. Do you truly know who's on your side and who's just waiting for the perfect moment to take you down? Because not every war is fought with weapons. Some are fought in silence, in shadows, behind friendly eyes. And in a world where betrayal hides behind loyalty, recognizing the enemy may be your only protection. Let's get into it. Sometimes the most dangerous people don't yell. They don't insult you. They don't even argue. They just watch. They observe. They study. And they wait. See, we often think a threat has to be loud, but real danger, it's quiet. It doesn't show up in chaos. It hides in routine. Let me tell you a story. Daniel was like most people. He had a rhythm. Morning coffee at the same cafe, gym at 5, walk home around sunset. It made him feel productive, safe, predictable. Then Ryan showed up, at the gym first, then the cafe, then outside his apartment. Always polite, always friendly, never intrusive, just present, but too present. One night, Daniel looked across the street, and there Ryan was again. No gym bag, no coffee in hand, just standing, watching. That's when it hit him. Ryan wasn't just part of the background. He was studying it, studying him. And that's what a silent observer does. They don't threaten. They don't confront. They just gather. In today's world, it doesn't take a hacker to follow your life. It just takes patience. Maybe you don't post about your schedule, but your friends do. Someone tags you at lunch. A coworker casually mentions where you work out. Piece by piece, they assemble the puzzle. And when they've seen enough, they slide into your routine so smoothly you barely notice, until it's too late. What's terrifying is that your brain wants to rationalize it. You tell yourself it's coincidence. You tell yourself, maybe I'm overthinking, but the Stoics would tell you otherwise. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." What you ignore becomes your reality. What you tolerate becomes your weakness. And here's the truth. Your instincts aren't paranoia. They're wisdom that hasn't found words yet. So ask yourself this. Have you ever felt like someone knows too much about you without ever asking? Do you keep running into the same person in different places? Do they seem to know where you'll be without you telling them? If so, don't brush it off. The silent observer is dangerous not because they act quickly, but because they never rush. They wait until they know you better than you know yourself, until your defenses are down, until you stop noticing their presence. That's when they move. So how do you protect yourself? Not with fear, but with awareness. Start paying attention to who's paying attention to you. Trust your gut, and remember, it's better to seem cautious than to be caught off guard. Because when danger is quiet, silence isn't safety. It's a warning. Not all betrayal is loud. Some of the worst kinds don't come with a knife to your back. They come with a whisper in someone else's ear. See, the most dangerous enemies aren't the ones who challenge you openly. They're the ones who stay quiet, who smile to your face, while quietly dismantling everything you've built. Emily didn't see it at first. She thought the distance from her coworkers was just life, a few misunderstandings, a little office tension. But slowly things shifted. People stopped including her in conversations. Her boss became cold. Colleagues who once confided in her avoided eye contact. And no one could tell her why, because it wasn't one big event. It was 1,000 small cuts. A rumor here, a twisted comment there. Behind it all, someone who didn't fight her directly. They didn't confront her. They didn't even show their face. They just planted doubt, subtle, quiet, strategic. That's the nature of quiet betrayal. It doesn't crash through the door. It seeps in, like poison in water. And before you realize what's happening, you're isolated, second-guessing everything and everyone, including yourself. Marcus Aurelius, who ruled over betrayal and chaos, once wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know the truth." In other words, numbers mean nothing without substance. Popularity is not proof. And Epictetus, the great Stoic teacher, said, "If someone speaks ill of you, do not defend yourself. Live in such a way that no one believes them." That's not about pride, it's about power. Because you can't control what people say, but you can control how you live. So what do you do when betrayal is happening behind the scenes? First, you rely on character, not reputation. Reputation is perception. Character is truth. Reputation can be stolen. Character must be earned. Second, look for patterns, not drama. If someone is always surrounded by conflict, but never takes responsibility, pay attention. If lies or rumors always seem to originate around one person, there's your sign. The Stoics never accused without evidence, but they never ignored patterns either. Third, fortify your circle. Loyalty isn't about flattery. It's about honesty in private and defense in public. Surround yourself with people who know your values, not just your victories. Seneca said, "Associate with those who will make a better man of you." That kind of loyalty can't be manipulated by gossip. So let me ask you, have you ever felt your world shift without warning? Like something invisible turned your allies into strangers? That might not be coincidence. That might be quiet betrayal. And here's the truth most people miss. You don't need to fight lies with anger. You fight lies by living well, by standing firm, by refusing to be shaken by the noise. Because in a world where manipulation whispers and betrayal hides behind politeness, the strongest voice you can have is your own unwavering character. Stay grounded, stay discerning, and never give an enemy more power than they deserve. Not all enemies come with clenched fists. Some arrive with open arms, warm smiles, and just the right words to earn your trust. The most dangerous betrayal doesn't come from a stranger. It comes from someone who knows your secrets, who shared your meals, your victories, your breakdowns. Someone you once called a friend. James learned this the hard way. When he took a new job, he met Daniel. Charming, supportive, always eager to help. In no time, Daniel became more than just a coworker. He became his closest confidant. They talked about everything: career dreams, personal struggles, family drama. Daniel even got close to James's loved ones. It felt real, until it wasn't. Suddenly, a private project James had been working on was reassigned. Sensitive information he only shared with Daniel was now being used against him. And when he confronted him, Daniel laughed, like it was nothing. But it wasn't nothing. It was a carefully calculated betrayal. the kind that doesn't stab you in the back, but slips a knife in your hand, smiles, and waits for you to cut yourself. Stoic wisdom has warned us about this for centuries. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Be wary of those who are too eager to stand by your side, for the man who needs to prove his loyalty is often the one most likely to betray you." True friendship grows slowly, like a tree taking root. But false friendship, it comes fast, too fast. It rushes into your life with intensity that feels flattering, but it's really camouflage. Seneca said it plainly. A prosperous man often has more to fear from his friends than from his enemies, because envy doesn't always look like jealousy. Sometimes it looks like admiration until it turns. So how do you protect yourself from the enemy in disguise? First, protect your inner world. Not everyone deserves access to your dreams, fears, or vulnerabilities. What you share becomes a tool, and in the wrong hands, a weapon. Second, trust time, not intensity. A true friend earns your trust over weeks, months, even years. A false friend wants it now because they don't plan to stick around long enough to prove it. Third, pay attention to patterns. Do they ask too many questions too quickly? Do they always want to know where you are, who you're with, what you're planning? That's not curiosity, that's control. And if they suddenly become your biggest cheerleader, while quietly feeding your fears, doubts, and insecurities, that's not support, that's strategy. Remember, a real friend wants to see you grow. A fake friend wants to grow closer so they can take what you have. So ask yourself, who in your life seems just a little too invested in knowing everything about you? Who moved into your world too fast and made you feel guilty for setting boundaries? That's not connection. That's manipulation dressed as intimacy. Stay guarded, stay wise, and never hand your trust to someone just because they asked for it. Because the most dangerous enemy isn't the one who stands against you. It's the one who stands too close, with a smile on their face and a knife behind their back. 5, violence almost never comes out of nowhere. It doesn't knock on your door and announce itself. It whispers first, it tests, and if you're not paying attention, it escalates. Most people think danger shows up as a sudden outburst, but often it starts with a joke. Nathan thought his coworker Eric was just that guy, the one who made dark jokes, the one who laughed a little too hard about violence. "Man, if I snapped one day, you'd all be gone," Eric would say, chuckling. Nathan laughed too, because it was easier than making it awkward. But soon it wasn't just words. Eric started standing a little too close, blocking doorways, making contact, accidentally. Then one afternoon, he slammed a heavy object on Nathan's desk and whispered, "Imagine if that was your head." It stopped being funny. What started as humor had become something else entirely, a pattern of subtle, escalating threats. This is how gradual attacks work. They begin with little tests to see what they can get away with. First, a violent joke, then an invasion of personal space, next a passive-aggressive comment wrapped in a smile, a playful shove, a stare that lasts too long. Each move is a probe. Will you react? Will you speak up? Or will you stay silent, giving them permission to keep going? And here's what the Stoics teach us. The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way. Marcus Aurelius. Meaning, you don't run from confrontation, you face it with calm, clear strength. Not with panic, but with boundaries. Because ignoring these signs doesn't make them go away. It just gives them space to grow. So what do? First, recognize the pattern. If someone keeps crossing lines, even subtly, don't explain it away. Don't laugh just to keep the peace. Awareness is your first defense. Second, set clear boundaries. You don't need to shout. A simple, firm, "That's not okay," or "Don't touch me like that," sends a message. A Stoic doesn't overreact, but they also don't tolerate disrespect, no matter how small. Third, document and act. If behavior escalates, don't wait for it to become a crisis. Write things down. Talk to someone you trust. Get support. And if needed, create distance. Because a sword doesn't kill on its own. It is merely the hand that wields it, as Seneca reminded us. Before violence comes action, And before action comes intent. And that intent always shows up first in the shadows. So here's a question for you. Has someone in your life crossed small boundaries again and again, and you let it slide? Have they made you uncomfortable but disguised it as just joking? Pay attention, because harm rarely arrives as a storm out of nowhere. It starts with a cloud, a shift in the air, a small test to see if you're paying attention. In moments like that, remember this. Your silence is not peace, it's permission. So stand firm, set your limits, and never let subtle aggression take root. The sooner you act, the safer you stay. Some enemies don't shout. They don't challenge you. They don't even look like enemies at all. They wait. They play the long game. And while you're living your life, trusting, building, opening up, they're taking notes. Not because they care, but because they're calculating. Let me tell you a story. Ethan had always trusted his instincts. He could read people well, avoid drama, sense bad energy from a mile away. But he didn't see Daniel coming. Daniel was friendly, helpful, always around, never intrusive, just there. They worked together, grabbed coffee, even talked about family. Over the years, Ethan shared more. Plans, fears, career goals, personal struggles. Why wouldn't he? Daniel never gave him a reason to doubt. Until one day, everything started to unravel. A promotion Ethan had been preparing for went to someone else. Sensitive details he'd only shared with Daniel were suddenly whispered across the office. And just like that, his confidence, his reputation, his progress collapsed. Daniel hadn't stabbed him in the back. He'd waited, watched, and struck when Ethan least expected it. That's the terrifying thing about the long game. It doesn't rely on force, it relies on trust. See, a quick enemy is easy to spot, but a patient one? They hide behind kindness. They win your confidence. They study your blind spots, so they know exactly where to hit. And often, they ask about your future not to support it, but to plan around it. When are you traveling? What are your long-term goals? What worries you the most? These questions sound harmless, but in the wrong hands, they're not curiosity. They're reconnaissance. Marcus Aurelius once said, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." When someone spends years pretending to be your friend, they shape how you see them until it's too late to see them for what they really are. So how do you protect yourself? First, be cautious with chronic curiosity. Not everyone who asks questions deserves an answer. You don't owe your roadmap to anyone. Second, trust patterns, not promises. A true friend's loyalty shows in actions over time, not in big declarations or sudden closeness. Watch what people repeat. Do they lift you consistently or only when it serves them? Third, practice emotional self-sufficiency. The Stoics believe that your peace, your plans, your power should come from within, not from applause, not from approval, and definitely not from false allies. The most dangerous people in your life may not raise a red flag. They may hand you one, slowly, subtly, then stand back while you wave it for them. So ask yourself, is there someone in your life who knows everything about you, but somehow you know very little about them? Do they always support your moves until you get too close to something they want? That's not a friend. That's a strategist. In the game of life, not all threats come fast. Some take years. They wait for the moment when your guard is down, when you've handed over your story, and they use your own script against you. So stay sharp, be kind, but cautious, and never forget. It's not just the enemies who confront you that can destroy you. It's the ones who sit beside you, smiling, waiting, and watching for the perfect moment to make their move. The most dangerous threats aren't the ones that shout. They don't slam doors, raise voices, or wear black hats. They wear familiarity, a handshake, a shared laugh. They wear the face of someone you've known for years or thought you did. And that's why they're so effective. Because when betrayal comes dressed in routine, when it whispers instead of screams, you don't see it coming until it's already done its damage. But now you do see it. You've learned how to spot the quiet observer, the manipulator who hides in the background. You've seen how betrayal doesn't always come with war. It often comes with a smile. You've seen how some people ask questions not out of love, but out of strategy. And now you can't unsee it. So what do you do with this knowledge? First, save this video. Keep it close. These signs are not just content, they're tools. And in the real world, tools save lives, careers, and peace of mind. Second, watch the video that's about to appear on your screen, because this wasn't random. If you've encountered these kinds of people before, there's a high chance you've crossed paths with covert narcissists, people who wear charm like armor and manipulate like it's second nature. That next video will help you unmask them. And third, act, because knowing is not enough. Knowledge is your first weapon, but action is your shield. Start observing the people around you. Who always shows up just a little too perfectly? Who celebrates you in public, but undermines you in private? Who pushes your boundaries and then smiles when you let them? Awareness isn't paranoia, it's preparation. As Marcus Aurelius taught, the soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts. What you allow yourself to think about, what you choose to notice, shapes the life you build. So if your instinct whispers that something's wrong, don't silence it. Don't rationalize it away. Listen. Because in the modern world, your silence can be someone else's advantage. But your awareness, that's your edge. Let them think you're calm. Let them think you're naive. Just never let them catch you off guard. Stay sharp, stay grounded, and most importantly, stay in control. I'll see you in the next one.